Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something a little bit different, something I am personally incredibly excited about.
Me too, honestly.
Yeah, because usually we're tearing apart a dense business book or, we're looking at a complex scientific paper trying to extract those nuggets of wisdom for your daily life. But today...
Today is special.
It really is. Today, we are taking a massive stack of sources. I mean, we've got episode summaries, cast lists, ratings data, critical essays, character arcs, and we are doing a deep dive into one of the most fascinating seasons of television sitcom history. We are talking about the show Frasier, and specifically, we're dissecting season 6.
It is so good to be here for this. And I think you're right to frame this as a legitimate deep dive in the truest sense of the phrase, because when you look at the source material for season 6 and you really peel back the layers, it's not just a collection of jokes. It's not just a standard sitcom. It is actually a really dense, almost academic study in psychology, status, and resilience.
Right.
It's about what happens when you take absolutely everything away from a person.
Exactly. And just to set the stage for everyone listening out there, maybe you watched the show 20 years ago, or, maybe you've never actually seen it. You really have to understand the baseline here.
The baseline is crucial.
Right, because Frasier is usually synonymous with high culture. It's about fancy apartments, expensive sherry, successful careers. It's that feeling of being just completely above the fray.
Yes, the elite Seattle socialite life.
Exactly. But looking at the breakdown of season 6 in our notes, this is the season where the floor just drops out.
Well,
It's defined by total upheaval. It's defined by what sociologists and some of the critics in our notes call downward mobility for the Crane brothers.
downward mobility, that is the perfect way to put it. In fact, the source material notes a very specific, almost subliminal visual shift that signals this tone right from the jump.
Oh, the title card thing.
Yes. If you look at the opening title card, the graphic that just says Frasier at the start of the show? For 5 seasons, it was blue, it was yellow, these bright, cheery colors. But in season 6...
It was changed to the color brown.
brown.
Not the cheery blue or the bright yellow, just mud brown.
Right. It signals something earthier, perhaps a bit grittier. It suggests that we are getting down into the mud this season. The gloss is coming off completely.
Yeah.
And if you look at the mission of our deep dive today, based on these sources, it's really threefold.
Okay, lay it out for us.
First, we need to explore how these characters handle loss. Frasier loses his job at the radio station, KACL. Niles loses his social status and his massive wealth.
Which is a huge blow for him.
Massive. Second, we have to analyze the geometric nightmare that is the romantic life of the Crane men this season.
Geometric nightmares, right. I was looking at the diagrams in the notes, and we've got triangles, we've got misconnections, we've got literal psychic visions. It is a complete mess.
It really is. And third, and this is where the fun really happens, we need to highlight the specific comedic masterpieces that occur when highbrow characters are forced into very lowbrow situations.
Oh, absolutely. I've been reading through these episode summaries, and I'll tell you right now, we've got to talk about dead seals. We have to talk about urinal cake fortunes.
Yes.
Yes, I said urinal cakes.
Okay.
And we have to talk about disastrous dinner parties. It is going to be a wild ride.
It is a study in the shedding of egos, so should we jump right in?
Let's unpack this. We have to start with section 1, the identity crisis. The season kicks off with Frasier Crane, the famous radio psychiatrist, the voice of Seattle, completely unemployed. The episode is literally titled, Good Grief.
A very fitting title. Now, remember the context here. At the end of the previous season, the radio station, KACL, was bought out, and they changed the format to an all-salsa music station.
All salsa. Just amazing.
So the entire talk radio staff was fired. Season 6 opens with Frasier completely adrift. And what's fascinating here is the psychological processing. Frasier is a psychiatrist. He literally wrote papers on grief. He helps other people through it on a daily basis.
Right.
So he claims he understands it. He claims he's totally fine.
He's doing that thing smart people do where they think they can intellectualize their feelings so they don't actually have to feel them.
Precisely. But the source material details a journey through the stages of grief that is anything but fine. He starts in total denial. He's telling everyone he's recharging. He's exploring new opportunities.
The classic buzzwords.
Exactly. But then he hits the anger stage. The summary mentions that he's watching his former coworkers find new jobs, and it is just eating him alive. He's jealous. He's petty.
Because it's the loss of relevance. He's watching the world move on without him. And that leads to the bargaining stage, which is honestly one of the most cringeworthy moments in the data we have. He attempts to assemble his fan club.
Oh boy, the fan club.
This part killed me. He thinks to himself, I'm beloved. The people of Seattle will rise up and demand my return. So he organizes a rally. He expects a giant mob. And how many people actually show up?
According to the episode summary, exactly 3 people.
3 people?
And I think one of them might have just been confused and wandered in. It gets worse, though. It's not just that only 3 people show up. It's that it results in a humiliating rally that nobody attends in a very public space.
Yeah, that hurts.
It is the ultimate puncture to his ego. He realizes the city really has moved on, and that pushes him right over the edge into depression.
And the way the show depicts depression here is so relatable, yet so ridiculous. He starts overeating, but not just normal overeating. He's literally stealing Alice's baby food.
That image is completely seared into the analysis here. Frasier Crane, a man who prides himself on gourmet dining, on distinguishing between a Merlot and a Cabernet blindfolded. He is sitting in a darkened apartment, unshaven, reduced to eating pureed mush intended for Roz's infant. It is the perfect metaphor for regression. He has regressed to a childlike state of absolute dependency.
Wow. Yeah, that's deep.
The family eventually has to stage an intervention just to force him to accept the reality that the job is gone.
And that reality hits really hard in the home dynamic, too. Which moves us on to Episode 3, Dial M for Martin. Because now that Frasier is unemployed, he's just home all day.
Which is a complete nightmare for Martin.
Totally. Just think about the rhythm of their lives before this happened. Frasier was the provider, the busy man about town. He'd leave in the morning, come back in the evening. Martin had the apartment to himself to watch TV, drink a beer, just be himself.
He had his routine.
Right, but now, Frasier is just there. He's a nuisance. The power dynamics shift completely. Frasier starts micromanaging the house because he has absolutely nothing else to manage.
There is a very specific physical moment noted in the sources for this episode that illustrates the tension perfectly. Niles is moving Martin into his apartment temporarily, or at least trying to, because Frasier is driving everyone completely crazy. And there's an incident with Martin's cane.
Oh, right, the cane. Niles kicks away Martin's cane, and Martin just falls over.
It's slapstick, obviously, but it's very Freud. Martin becomes convinced that Niles is unconsciously trying to harm him, that he's trying to eliminate the father figure.
That's hilarious.
It speaks to the underlying aggression that bubbles up when these characters are forced into tight quarters without their usual outlets. But I think the real peak of this identity crisis arc is Episode 2, Frasier's Curse.
Frasier's Curse, yes. This is the recurring theme that reunions always seem to happen when Frasier is at an absolute low point.
Precisely. The source mentions he recalls past lows, like his divorce from Lilith happening right before a reunion, or being left at the altar by Diane right before another one. Every single time he has to face his peers, the universe conspires to put him in a hole.
And now, he's unemployed and single.
The worst combination for him.
And the comedy comes from the fact that he looks terrible. The source says he looks shabby, he's actively trying to avoid people, so he's dressing down, he's frantic, and then he runs into a highly successful former classmate while he looks like a total mess.
And he's terrified that rumors are going to spread that he's homeless.
Exactly. It connects to the bigger picture of the season. When you strip away Frasier's job, which is his primary source of prestige, that title of radio psychiatrist, he is forced to confront who he is without it.
And the answer, initially at least, is that he is a frightened, incredibly insecure man who cares deeply about what other people think. He isn't Frasier Crane, MD, anymore. He's just a guy without a job.
Which is a perfect segue, actually. Because if we think Frasier's having a hard time losing his job, we have to talk about Niles. Section 2 of our dive is the fall of Niles.
Poor Niles. If Frasier is dealing with a loss of career, Niles is dealing with the total incineration of his lifestyle. He is in the thick of a very messy divorce from Maris.
And Maris, as we know, holds all the purse strings.
Correct. She is freezing his assets. She is dragging out the legal proceedings. The financial hit is devastating. We see this in Episode 7, How to Bury a Millionaire.
Great title.
The summary lists the casualties for him. Niles loses his Mercedes. He has to rent out his beloved, extremely prestigious apartment at the Montana because he just can't afford the upkeep anymore.
And this leads to one of the most iconic settings in Season 6, the Shangri-La.
The Shangri-La.
Just the name makes me laugh. It sounds so exotic, like this luxurious paradise. But the reality is, well, It's a bachelor apartment complex that falls far, far below the Crane standards.
It is the ultimate indignity for a man like Niles. Niles is a creature of comfort. He's a creature of aesthetics. He needs his environment to be meticulously controlled and beautiful.
Right.
And suddenly he is living in a place with paper-thin walls, bad carpet, questionable neighbors, and a Murphy bed that probably smells like old gym socks.
But notice how the source material frames this move. It's necessary. Frasier actually forces him to do it. Frasier plays the role of the pragmatist here. He tells him the biggest drain on your finances is the apartment, and he literally makes him rent it out.
It's tough love. But Niles still tries to keep up appearances, which leads us to arguably the funniest plot point in the entire outline. Episode 8, The Seal Who Came to Dinner.
This is legendary. It really is.
It is a classic farce setup. Niles wants to host a gourmet club dinner to win the Golden Apron Award.
Golden Apron. The stakes are just so low, but to Niles, they are life and death.
Exactly. He obviously can't host this dinner at the Shangri-La. His pride wouldn't allow it. So he decides to break into Maris's beach house while she's out of the country.
High stakes already. He is trespassing just to maintain a facade of wealth. He's basically staging a coup of his own former life.
Everything seems fine at first. The setting is perfect until they walk out onto the beach and discover a dead seal.
And not just a seal, but a dead seal. A massive, heavy, incredibly smelly biological reality that completely intrudes on their gourmet fantasy.
The sensory details in the script for this episode are amazing. The smell is described as overpowering. So here you have Niles and Frasier dressed in these immaculate designer suits, expensive perfumes, likely ready to serve high-end caviar, and they are suddenly wrestling with a rotting carcass.
The juxtaposition is just amazing. The notes say they try to drag it into the ocean, but it washes back up. They try to weigh it down. And because it's Frasier, it spirals completely out of control.
Naturally.
The neighbors see them struggling with, quote, a body, unquote, wrapped in a rug or a sheet, and they hear them calling out Maris and stabbing at the thing to make it sink.
And the neighbors become completely convinced that Niles has murdered his wife. It is the perfect example of what we talked about in the intro. Highbrow characters forced into lowbrow, gritty situations. They're literally wrestling with death and decay.
Yeah.
It strips away all their pretension. You really cannot be a snob when you are covered in seal guts.
Very true. But the ultimate stripping of pretension comes later in the season, with the divorce settlement itself. Episode 15. To tell the truth. This introduces a new character who is absolutely pivotal to Season 6, Donny Douglas.
Played by the wonderful Saul Rubinek. And Donny is a fascinating foil for the Cranes. The source describes him as cheery, uncouth, and slobby.
He's a slob lawyer. He exercises in his office. He constantly has mustard on his shirt. He is the anti-Niles. But he's effective.
He is incredibly effective. He completely cows Maris's elite lawyers into submission. But the real bombshell, the thing that changes everything, is what Donny discovers about the source of the Crane family wealth. Or rather, the Maris family wealth.
I still can't believe this is real, but the source says it wasn't timber or lumber as Maris had always claimed. It was urinal cakes.
Urinal cakes.
The little disinfectant blocks in public toilets. That is where all the millions came from.
Think about the irony here. Just pause for a second and appreciate it. Niles Crane. A man who dusts off his chair before he sits in it. A man of such refined, delicate taste that he gets allergies from cheap fabric. He has been funded for years by the industrial sanitation industry. By urinal cakes.
It's the ultimate punchline to his entire marriage. All those years of high society, the opera balls, the wine auctions, it was all paid for by public bathroom disinfectant.
And the resolution to the legal battle is great too. Maris agrees to a quick divorce just to keep the urinal cake money a secret. She's far more embarrassed by the source of the money than she is about the divorce itself.
It humbles Niles. I mean, it frees him, yes, but it also forces him to acknowledge that his status was built on a foundation of, well, waste management, essentially. It really levels the playing field.
Speaking of leveling the playing field, things get really complicated when Donny Douglas, the slobby savior, starts dating Daphne. This moves us right into Section 3, romantic geometry.
Yes, the triangles. This is so painful for Niles. Donny saved him in court. He literally owes Donny his life in a way. But now Donny is with the woman Niles has loved silently for 6 years.
And it comes to a head in episode 22, Visions of Daphne. This one sounds like a soap opera on paper, but it plays out with such incredible comedy. Daphne has a psychic vision. She sees her true love, and he's standing in a doorway wearing a red bow tie.
Now, Niles hears about this vision, and he is put in a terrible ethical position. Daphne asks him for advice on whether she should marry Donny. Niles, betraying his professional integrity as a psychiatrist and clearly driven by his own desire, advises her against it.
He tells her not to marry him. That is huge. A psychiatrist using his influence to sabotage a relationship for his own personal gain. It really shows how desperate he is at this point in the season. And then, for the visual punchline, Niles shows up later wearing a red bow tie.
He is actively trying to force the prophecy to be about him. It's just so desperate. He's thinking, if I wear the tie, I become the vision.
But the universe, or rather the writers, have a twist in store. Niles receives a gift from Roz earlier in the episode. A dragon statue.
Right. And Daphne has a second vision. She sees her true love holding a dragon.
But she dismisses it. She assumes it's a false vision because it doesn't make any logical sense to her. So you have this tragic irony where the clues point directly to Niles, the red tie, the dragon. But the connection just isn't made by her. She stays with Donny.
It is absolute torture for the audience. You're just screaming at the screen. It's Niles! Look at the tie!
But Niles isn't the only one suffering romantically. Frasier's love life is a complete mess, too. We have the Faye versus Cassandra dilemma in episode 21.
When a man loves two women, this is a classic have your cake and eat it too scenario. Frasier is juggling two women who are polar opposites of each other. Faye is described in our notes as artistic, intelligent. She's a peer. She challenges him intellectually. Cassandra is a marketing manager, glamorous, very fun. And the family takes sides. This is what I love about it. It's not just Frasier's choice in a vacuum. Martin likes Cassandra. Why? Because she brings him joy. She laughs at his jokes. She compliments him.
Martin's very simple in his needs. He just likes being appreciated. Daphne, on the other hand, likes Faye because Faye is grounded and real. But Frasier's complete inability to choose, it just paralyzes him. And inevitably, in trying to keep both options open, he loses both of them.
Classic Frasier.
Yeah.
He overthinks it until the opportunity is gone. He's looking for the perfect choice, and in doing so, he makes no choice at all. And we have to mention the Jewish farce in episode 10, Merry Christmas, Mrs. Moskowitz.
Oh, this is a definite highlight. Frasier's dating Faye, and her mother, Helen, jumps to the conclusion that Frasier is Jewish.
And instead of just correcting her like a normal person, he tries to write it out to avoid offending her.
The comedic set piece here is just brilliant. They're hiding the Christmas tree in the bathroom. They are pretending to mourn. It is so frantic. It really highlights how far Frasier will go to be liked, or to keep a relationship afloat, even if it means constructing a completely false identity. He's caught screaming Jesus in shop and then has to immediately cover it up by saying, gee, us. It's pure linguistic gymnastics.
It's hilarious. And we can't forget Martin. He's usually the steady one, but even he has drama this season. He dates Bonnie in episode 23. She's a waitress, seems completely perfect. But the conflict, her dog.
Her poodle, to be specific. The source notes that the poodle dominates Eddie.
Eddie, the alpha dog of the apartment, gets bullied by a lady poodle. And that annoys Martin so much it actually impacts the relationship. It's petty, but it is so Martin. He just can't stand seeing his dog emasculated.
It shows that everyone in this season is dealing with some form of incompatibility, whether it is spiritual incompatibility, intellectual incompatibility, or, in Martin's case, canine incompatibility.
True. Now, speaking of intellectual incompatibility, or maybe intense compatibility, let's move to section 4, the psychology of sibling rivalry. Because season 6 drops a nuclear bomb on the Frasier and Niles dynamic in episode 19 titled IQ.
This episode is fundamental. If you really want to understand the Crane brothers, you watch this episode. It starts with a silent auction. They are bidding on a lunch with 3 Nobel laureates.
Of course they are. That is the most Crane setup possible.
And they start bidding against each other. They aren't bidding because they want the lunch that badly. They are bidding because they simply cannot let the other brother win. They end up paying over $8,000 for this lunch just to spite one another.
Wow. But the real catalyst is the backstory that comes up. They recall taking IQ tests as children, but their mother never told them the specific results.
She only told them they were 2 points apart, but she crucially never said who was higher.
The ambiguity kept the peace all those years. It allowed them to believe they were absolute equals. But now, as adults, they just can't let it go. They dig up the results from the school archives, and the reveal is completely devastating for Frasier.
I have the numbers right here in the notes. Frasier was 129, which is bright. Sure, that's well above average. But Niles
is 156.
156. That is a massive, massive gap. That's the difference between being the smart guy in the room and being a bona fide genius.
And the fallout is immediate. They feign maturity at first. Oh, congratulations. But the jealousy rots Frasier from the inside out. He starts questioning his entire life. And Niles becomes completely insufferable.
He starts correcting Frasier's grammar even more than usual. He starts acting like a benevolent god handing down wisdom. They decide to have a study session in the library to prove, I don't even know what, to prove they're both smart before the lunch, but it goes completely wrong.
It is a study in contrasting anxieties. Frasier overcaffeinates to stimulate his brain to try to close that intellectual gap. Niles takes allergy medicine for his parchment mite allergy.
Parchment mite allergy, you really can't make this stuff up. It's so painfully specific to his character.
And the medicine makes Niles dopey. So you have a hyperwired Frasier vibrating with caffeine energy and a sedated Niles literally drooling on the table.
Yeah.
And the scene at the lunch itself, Niles passes out and destroys the table just as the Nobel laureates arrive.
It completely deconstructs their entire relationship.
Yeah.
Frasier is the charismatic face, the TV star, the radio voice, but Niles is the intellectual powerhouse. And the show is telling us here they cannot function without competing. They are locked in this endless dance. If one wins definitively, the entire system breaks down.
And sometimes that dance is literal, or at least very physical. We have to talk about episode 14, 3 Valentines, specifically the Niles storyline.
Oh my God, the ironing scene.
The source calls this a masterclass in silent physical comedy.
It is a brilliant homage to the silent film era. Niles is alone in Frasier's apartment. He's getting ready for a date. He sees a tiny crease in his trousers. He decides he needs to iron it.
Because he's trying to be perfect. But he cuts his finger, he faints at the sight of his own blood. Then he wakes up, tries to clean the blood, creates a bigger mess. Then the iron burns the pants. He tries to put out the fire.
And it just escalates from there. The source mentions he loses control of the fire extinguisher. He's spraying foam absolutely everywhere. He's ruining the couch. He's ruining the carpet.
By the end of the scene, the apartment is completely destroyed. And he hasn't said a single word the entire time. It's just pure chaos, born from an erotic desire for perfection.
That is the absolute essence of Niles Crane. The harder he tries to control his environment, the more it explodes in his face. It is entropy in a designer suit.
It's brilliant television. Now, moving on to Section 5. We get some incredible guest stars this season who act as foils, really mirrors, for our main characters. First up is the legendary Christine Baranski as Dr. Nora in episode 20.
Dr. Nora is a fascinating villain for this show. Frasier hires her as a protege. He thinks she is absolutely perfect. She compliments him. She strokes his ego. She quotes his academic papers back to him.
She even pretends to think Niles is the older brother, which Niles loves, obviously.
But the mask slips quickly. Frasier hears her on the air. And she is not a compassionate listener like he is. She is judgmental. She is abusive. She condemns single parents. She condemns divorcees. She literally calls people sinners on the radio.
She's basically the anti-Frasier. Frasier's all about nuance and understanding. And let's unpack this together. Dr. Nora is about rigid judgment and screaming you're wrong at her callers.
Frasier is horrified by what he's unleashed. He tries to get rid of her, but the station manager, Kenny, loves the ratings. She attracts attention. Controversy sells. So Frasier and Roz decide to declare war on her.
And the tactic they use, well, it's a bit underhanded. Niles suggests they find Dr. Nora's mother to solve her psychological issues.
A very classic Freudian approach. Find the mother, find the source of the trauma.
So they find the mother, played by Piper Laurie, and they bring her to the station for an on-air reunion. They think it'll be this tearful breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
And it is a massive backfire.
Huge backfire. The mother is actually worse than Nora. She is a complete monster. She starts abusing Nora on the air, screaming at her. And Dr. Nora, this terrifying figure of rigid judgment, reduces to a screaming child and just flees the station.
It's a dark episode, really. It shows that Frasier's attempts to fix people can sometimes just unleash way more chaos. He tried to play God with her psychology, and he just traumatized everyone involved.
And then on a completely different note, we have a return from the Cheers days. Woody Harrelson returns as Woody Boyd in episode 13.
The show where Woody shows up. I always love when Cheers characters come back to Seattle, but this one feels very different. It feels bittersweet.
It is bittersweet. It's a harsh reality check. Frasier is so excited at first. My old friend Woody is in town, but then he realizes they really have nothing in common anymore. Frasier is a Seattle socialite psychiatrist. Woody's is, well, Woody. He's simple. He's from Hanover, Indiana.
They completely run out of things to say to each other. They're just retelling old stories over and over. And Frasier starts to feel pity for Woody. He thinks Woody's life is simple and kind of sad.
But the twist, and this is the insight the source material really highlights, is that Woody actually pities Frasier.
Right. Woody sees Frasier living with his dad, hanging out with his brother every single day, completely single. And Woody feels bad for him. Woody has a wife, he has kids, he has a full life. Frasier has his Sherry.
It's a poignant look at nostalgia versus reality. They agree to reconnect in 5 or 10 years. It's an acknowledgement that their paths have definitively diverged. It's a very mature moment for a sitcom. It tells the audience that it's okay to outgrow people.
It really is. It anchors the show in a real timeline. People grow apart. That's just life.
Before we get to the finale, we definitely have to touch on Section 6, The Bad Samaritan. This explores Frasier's moral compass. Episode 11, Good Samaritan.
This one is rough for Frasier. He's trying to do good deeds, but the universe just keeps punishing him for it.
Specifically, he gives a ride to a stranded woman in the pouring rain, a noble act. He sees someone in distress. He stops to help.
But it turns out she is a prostitute. And the source notes she's a transvestite. And the police are watching the whole time. Frasier gets arrested.
He is utterly humiliated. He's in a cell at Martin's old precinct. The cops all know his dad. It's the ultimate no good deed goes unpunished scenario. He is sitting on a jail cot, completely stripped of his dignity.
But the ending is what really matters here. Frasier reimagines the scenario. He asks himself, if I knew what would happen, the arrest, the shame, the mocking, would I still stop the car?
And he decides he would. Despite the humiliation, he would still stop to help a person in the rain.
That's beautiful. It really is a great character moment.
It defines his core character. He is pompous, yes. He is arrogant, he is annoying, but ultimately he is driven by a deep desire to do the right thing. He is a moral man in an absurd world. He will choose the moral path even if it leads him straight to a jail cell.
Which brings us to the end, Section 7, the season finale, Shutout in Seattle. If this season was about downward mobility, the finale is about hitting absolute rock bottom romantically.
It is a crash, a total system crash. Let's look at the scoreboard for a second.
Frasier loses Faye. Why? Because he keeps calling her Cassandra.
The Freudian slip to end all Freudian slips. He is literally in bed with Faye and calls her Cassandra. It is self-sabotage perfection.
Martin breaks up with Bonnie, the waitress with the dominant poodle.
Niles tries to date a wild waitress named Kit.
Oh, Kit. She wears the leather jacket. Niles tries so hard to keep up. He's wearing a leather jacket, too, trying to use slang like buzzkill.
It is so painful to watch. He is trying to be someone he fundamentally is not, just to avoid being alone, and he can't keep it up. Kit dumps him because he's trying too hard, and it's obvious.
And then there's Roz.
Roz complicates things significantly. She sleeps with Bulldog.
Bulldog, the sports guy, the grossest guy at the radio station.
Twice, out of sheer loneliness. But when Bulldog actually calls her his girlfriend, she is completely repulsed. She realizes it was a massive mistake.
And amidst all this romantic chaos, Bulldog gets fired from KACL. So the station dynamic shifts yet again.
So look at the final image of the season. All three, Crane men, Frasier, Niles, Martin, are completely single again. They are right back to square one.
They end the season drinking and singing in a piano bar together. They're singing Goldfinger of all things. It's a bonding moment, but it's a bonding moment born entirely of failure.
They are survivors, they are battered, they are bruised, but they are together.
And we can't forget the cliffhanger for Daphne.
The ring.
She loses her engagement ring from Donny. She's frantically trying to hide it from him.
And that lingering tension of the red bow tie vision from earlier, it's totally unresolved. The season ends with uncertainty. Will she actually marry Donny? Does the vision of Niles mean something she'll figure out? We don't know. It just leaves the audience hanging.
So what does this all mean? If we look back at season 6 as a whole, what's the ultimate takeaway for the viewer?
I think season 6 was a necessary deconstruction. It completely dismantled the characters' egos. It took away Frasier's career. It took away Niles' wealth and his marriage. It took away all their romantic hopes.
It stripped them down to the studs.
Exactly. It replaced status with resilience. They survived. They survived dead seals. They survived unemployment. They survived the humiliating truth about urinal cakes.
And they still have each other, even if having each other means singing sadly in a bar.
Precisely. It replaced the external markers of success with true family bonding. Even if that bonding involves accidentally destroying a fancy dinner party, it says that you can lose everything that makes you important in the eyes of society and you're still you.
I love that. I want to leave our listeners with a provocative thought to mull over, building on the source material. I talked about Donny Douglas, the slob lawyer, and Dr. Nora, the abusive therapist.
Yes.
Why are the people who are bad at being polite often better at getting results than the polite, high IQ Cranes? Think about it. Donny won the impossible legal case. Dr. Nora got the massive ratings, at least until she imploded.
That is an excellent question. Perhaps this season suggests that the Crane's intelligence, their constant overthinking, their deep analysis, is actually a hindrance to their happiness. Sometimes you just need to be a Donnie and get the job done, even if your shirt is untucked and you have mustard on your tie. Maybe the smart choice isn't always the effective choice.
A really fascinating thought for you to explore on your own. Maybe being smart isn't everything.
Especially when you were dealing with a dead seal on a beach.
Very true. On that note, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the chaotic, messy, and hilarious world of Frasier Season 6.
It has been a pleasure unpacking this with you.
We'll catch you on the next dive. Keep listening.